Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show, October 30th edition. Keith, it's Halloween Eve.
Yep.
Halloween's already kind of an Eve, but it's Halloween Eve here. We've got a lot of NBA basketball to get into. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Keith, I'm getting excited for Halloween coming up tomorrow. It's an exciting time of year. I can't wait to go trick-or-treating and do all that kinds of stuff because I know, the time we get to do this. It's short. You only get a few years. I think this may be one of our last years getting to do trick-or-treating with the kid.
Yeah, we're sadly on this side already out of that phase, and she grew out of it very early. She always liked more handing out the candy.
Yeah.
So this year she's all fired up, and we've got the whole house is all decorated. We've got spider webs all over, like big spider webs. All over the house. We've got a brand new lighting package that we put on the house because I'm tired of climbing on the roof to do the Christmas lights every year. So we paid, I call them permanent Christmas lights. So we had those I'll put in, and they look great. And there's some really fun Halloween stuff. So we're probably going to be out there all night messing around with those and doing different things. So we're really excited for Halloween in our own right. But what's this year's costume? What are we being this year?
This year, well, I mean, we didn't hit our goal for our subscribers, so
Nope. So
I don't. Yeah, unfortunately, so I don't have a particular costume as far as that's concerned. I think I'm just gonna go as traditional dad,
tired dad,
and do that while we walk around and trick or treat. Maybe I'll bring a little drink with me or something like that. I'll bring the thermos,
yeah.
and it'll be a good time. I'm thinking about wearing the vest. You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So I think that's what I'm going to go as this year.
One year, Bella dressed up as a soccer player. Real hard to pull that costume off. She just put a uniform on. But I carried her on my chair and I was soccer dad because that's pretty much what I do every weekend is carry around my little camping chair and follow her wherever field we're traipsing off to that weekend. But yeah, it'll be enjoy it because it's fun, man. I miss it sometimes.
It is. We're gonna try to have a good time and go out and do that trick or treating stuff. Glad the Lakers don't have a game tomorrow night because that's
it's a pretty light schedule tomorrow night. This is I mentioned this a couple times. It's a very weird week for the NBA because they're trying to keep games off of Thursday nights as much as possible. So Halloween Thursday, there's only 4 games. Thursday night, Bucks, Grizzlies, Rockets, Mavericks, Spurs, Jazz, and Suns, Clippers. So pretty light night around the league.
Not bad. We'll take it. All right. Well, we've got a ton of news to get into. Let's start here. The big news for the Raptors: Scottie Barnes, fractured orbital. That sounds painful. He is out 3 weeks. Toronto, I mean, I know they're kind of in tank mode, but still, you hate seeing something like this for Scottie Barnes, and unfortunate that now he's going to miss this much time. And again, this is one of those reevaluate in 3 weeks, so who knows how long he's actually out. But I thought I was hoping this was going to be a big step forward season for Scottie Barnes. Still can be, but now he's going to miss. He's going to be out for some time here.
Yeah, and on top of that, RJ Barrett just came back. Yeah. But Kelly Olynyk hasn't played this year. He's had back soreness. We talked about Emmanuel quickly went down on opening night. He's still out. Bruce Brown has not yet been cleared to return. So the Raptors, they're going to be shorthanded. I don't know how many games they're really going to be in because if there's anybody who's like irreplaceable on this roster, it's Scottie Barnes. They don't have anyone else who can do what he does. RJ Barrett can to an extent, but doesn't have the same size as Barnes does. So we'll see how Darko Rajakovic plays this, and he's going to have to kind of continue to piece it together a little bit. My fear is a little with Toronto. You wanted to start to get more data on how does this all fit together? Do we need other guys? Again, super early. If he's only out 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you're fine. We're talking Thanksgiving he'll be back. So you're in a spot where it's okay, that's still more than enough time. But then other guys will miss time too, and you just start to lose these opportunities to see what does it look like with this core on the floor together.
Well, but did you see their last game? They actually took Denver to overtime. And the Nuggets, they had to hit. It was a Jamal Murray kind of up and under, really great shot in order to send it to OT. That was on Monday. Sunday,
I think that was. wasn't it? Or
No, I'm
was that
looking at it. It says Monday the 28th. It's all
Okay.
blurring together at this point anyway. But
I thought that was the Sunday afternoon game for some reason, but maybe I'm crazy. No, that was the
um,
Sixers Pacers was that bonkers Sunday
oh
game.
yeah.
You're right. It was Monday.
So with that game though, are you? I mean, the Denver Nuggets, they just picked up a couple of wins, but they went to OT against Brooklyn, to OT against Toronto. Is that a positive sign for Toronto, or is that more of a negative sign for Denver at this point?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say both, right? Good that the Raptors fought and could have won. I mean, it's in the end, it's probably a positive result for both too, right?
Exactly.
You're right there. You competitive and you lost. If you're the Raptors, same for the Nets. Last night before, whenever that was. So same for them. And then you had for Denver, yeah, you got to get those wins, right? You have to stack wins against bad teams. There's already a handful of teams have missed some opportunities against
Mm-hmm.
bad teams. That's going to happen. Everybody loses a game where it's like, what in the world went on tonight? Where a great team loses to a bad team. It's the problem is if those happen too often, like that's when you're like, oh, you don't want to be missing those opportunities. So yeah, I mean, I guess for the Nuggets, you're happy they showed fight and got back in that Toronto game because they were down by quite a bit in that one. They had to come back against the Nets too. Not quite as big of a comeback, but still you had to work, you had to go to
Mm-hmm.
overtime, back-to-back games in overtime. That's not great either. And as Michael Malone put it, I think most simply, his version of the quote was, I'm very glad I get to coach Nikola Jokic because I couldn't imagine game planning against him. And like that's
That's true.
like that's kind of the end. Murray made the big shot to get it to OT in the Toronto game, but Jokic was the reason. Last night he
He
had
was
an
insane.
absurd line last night.
29, 18, and 16 last
Yeah,
night in overtime against
yeah.
Brooklyn. I mean, now it's a back-to-back they played, but still
Mm-hmm.
2 overtime games in a row.
Against
Yeah,
two
I mean, I
watery
looked at
teams, not good.
no, and I looked at this week as a get right week for Denver because Toronto, Brooklyn, then Minnesota, then Utah. Now Utah's second night of a back-to-back again. That's 2 back-to-backs the same week.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough for Denver, but still 2 wins, but certainly not the way you would expect to see them. But again, back to Toronto. They fought, they played hard, and they ultimately lost. And that's probably the best thing for the club right now.
Yep. Yeah, and I get right. Like I always say, like it was funny. I had some Bulls fans the other day saying, like, shouldn't the Bulls be trying to lose games? And I was like, you can't openly tank, especially on a team with a bunch of vets on day one of the season
Yeah,
because you're just gonna lose them. Like they're just then your whole season's gonna end up a disaster. You're gonna lose games, so just take the wins while you get them, enjoy them. When you get them, and then just kind of go. And I always say too, like you win once every 5-ish games or so, one out every five. In that range, somewhere 1 out every 4.5. It's fine, right? Then
right.
enjoy the win, move on to the next one, and just go. So you don't want to lose so much that it's like, well, this just sucks. Because then what happens is it's like, why am I even watching? Right? Like I'll just like let me know when they make the draft pick, and then I'll watch starting next year. So that's the other tough part.
Well, it's it's going to be a pretty crazy tank race this year. And so I think we're going to see a lot more fans nervous every time their team wins
Oh
a
yeah.
game if they're one of those teams that's trying to capture the flag.
Hey,
All
let's
right.
pause there real quick.
Yeah.
The basketball bulletin. You and I and Bryce have been having what do we want to do with this project, right? We started a bunch of different things. Some of them went really well. Other things, didn't quite catch steam. I've been doing a lot of draft work for this upcoming draft class. So we're gonna relaunch the not relaunch the basketball bulletin, but or I guess not even relaunch, just launch my big board on the basketball bulletin, and I'll have a bunch of draft stuff coming out. It doesn't really fit anywhere else that I contribute, so I'm going to put it up there. First one will be out tomorrow. Will be out on Halloween. There's nothing spooky themed. Maybe I should have done something, but I didn't. I'm not that clever. But it'll be out on Thursday. You guys can read it. I have notes in there on the first couple tiers of players that I have on my big board, and I'll be adding notes as we go for basically everybody that I put in there. But I go through some of my explanation of how I got to here, why it's differentiates a little bit from some of the other draft content you read out there. I'm going to make the first one completely free to read. So everybody will get a snippet on that very first one of what this is going to look like. And then in the future, we'll put it behind our paywall. But the Basketball Bulletin paywall is as small as we are allowed to make it. So we know it's not, we're asking you for money, and it's not easy to always give that up. So we're asking for a pretty small amount of money for what should be a lot of content there. In addition, my game notes that I've been doing on Twitter, this is where I kind of become like everybody warned us when we were kids. Remember, everything was say no to drugs when we were kids. Because it was, they're going to give you a taste, right? And then you're going to go back for more. Well, I gave you a taste of my game notes throughout the first week of the season for free over on Twitter. Now they're going on the Basketball Bulletin. So every morning, whatever I watched will go up on the Basketball Bulletin, and we'll go from there. So you got the taste for free. Now you got to pay the man if you want to read the rest.
And that's over on Substack. We'll put the link in the description down below. That's a great way to describe it, Keith. You're a pusher.
Yeah. We're basketball dealers. That's what.
There we go. All right. Here we go. That went
a little off the rails, but that's all right. We corrected. We got the train back on track.
That's okay. And if you guys haven't checked it out, I do have the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel is also off and running and doing great things there. So
I like that you're having fun with that one.
I really am.
You're doing some topics that like I saw the Joe Mazzulla wants fighting stuff in the NBA. You guys had some fun with that. That was fun.
I'm like, this guy is the greatest quote ever because he says some of the most absurd stuff. Absolutely epic.
My favorite thing too has been the transition of Celtics fans from this freaking weirdo, would somebody fire this guy, to he's our lovable weirdo. He just says stuff like now, like he's like, he won a championship and the team's playing great, and people are like, he can do no wrong. If he wants there to be fighting in the NBA, I will start tackling players with the Goldberg spear.
Keith, I don't know how to take this, but you know that account Legion Hoops, and they aggregate everything. Did you see? So Joe Mazzulla had that comment about fighting, and then Legion Hoops put this out, saying, of course, because they got it from somewhere else, from Uprocks, from Dime, but apparently on Instagram, Steven Adams, and he put it on his story.
Yes.
Commented about the fighting thing, said $20, I punched Rudy Gobert square in the nose.
Yeah. And then he tagged Rudy Gobert in it, which was really funny. So I love it.
Steven Adams is a treasure.
I watched Steven Adams and Rudy Gobert throw hands.
Yeah. Would you rather watch that or was it Jake Paul and Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson's old. Like, he's older than we are, so I'm a little like, where are we? I mean, much older than we are. What are we doing here? But I don't know. He's still Mike Tyson. Like, do you remember back then? Like, because we were teenagers, maybe even a little younger, when he was like at the height of his powers, and like people were like, "What? How much money would you have to take to take a punch from Mike Tyson?" And it's funny, as I got older, that amount got significantly more. Because when I was a kid, it was like, I don't know, $100. Like, he knocks me out with one punch. I wake up the next day with a black eye and I'm fine. Like, now I'm like, nah, man, like, you probably break my jaw, and like
I would die.
That's going to be a mess for a couple months. Like, I don't want anything to do it. Like, I need $1 million or something. Like that.
The recovery time just goes up so much.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's why, like, I pick up basketball the other day, man. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I play, and then I'm like, all right, I need the next 2 days off. Like,
exactly.
My ankles and back are not ready for this, but it's still fun to get back out there. Man, I missed it so much. Like, it's so fun to be out there. But all right, we're one story in 15 minutes. People are gonna be
we'll get back on track here. I just want to get this one out of the way. Taylor Hendricks. Keith, I heard about it. I on purpose stayed away from it. I have not seen it.
I saw it. I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Like, it just came across my feed, and I was like, oh, what is it? And then I was like, oh, no, because I was trying to avoid it too. Don't go watch it.
No.
If you haven't seen it, there's no reason. If you saw Gordon Hayward, the end result looks very similar to that. What was really scary about this was there was no one around. He was just running down the court lost his footing, tried to regain his balance, and just slipped the wrong way. And like what makes that's like that could happen to literally anybody. Where it's like Hayward's, it sounds weird to say it, but like at least on that one, he got bumped in the air on an alley oop and landed weirdly. Like this was just him running down the court. But yeah, this there's no other way to put it. This sucks because this is a guy second year starting for the Jazz, had kind of taken on the role of like their defensive wing stopper, was doing okay with that, and now now we're just hoping let's get back a year from now and be okay.
Keith, you said this could happen to anybody. This literally just happened to my mom. I mean, she just got out of surgery a couple hours ago.
Oh my gosh.
She slipped and I mean, sat up and foot's pointing the wrong way, the full Hayward, all that. And so, yeah, she just got out of surgery, putting in the pins and everything like that. I mean, just sometimes crazy stuff happens. You step wrong, your foot goes out, your weight gets distributed wrong. And next thing you know, it's, big problem. So, the Jazz going to be without Taylor Hendricks now for the rest of the season. And, wish him well. Hope he recovers and gets back to full strength. But it's going to be a lost season for him.
Yeah, super young guy. So let's hope the recovery process goes really well for him and he's back to what it looked like he was starting to become.
All right, let's go here. A positive. Christian Koloko finally cleared by the NBA's fitness to play panel. We had dealt with a blood clot issue after his rookie season was cut short due to these blood clotting issue with the Toronto Raptors. Now he's cleared. He's on a 2-way contract with the Lakers, and now he's going to ramp up. He's actually allowed to walk onto an NBA court now, Keith. So we'll see. We'll see where things go. But still a very young player trying to resume his career, a career that at one point looked like it was over about as soon as it was starting.
Yeah, and if we go back like one step before that, looked really promising with the Raptors. Looked like, okay, he's probably never going to be like the modern big man who steps out and shoots, but looked like he's going to be a guy who can play around the rim on both ends, really block some shots, rebound, get up and finish lobs and those kind of things. Looked like he was going to be at a bare minimum like a pretty good backup center in the league. And we've talked about it before. The Lakers can use one more guy at that spot for sure because it's a lot of right now of Anthony Davis and Jackson Hayes, and then I don't even know how you would know better than me. I don't even know how many minutes they've played without one of those two on the floor, but I guess it's very, very few. And it's whoever it is, they're masquerading as a center because there's not another guy on the roster right now that is anything approaching a center. So hopefully Koloko is able to ramp up fairly quickly and make an impact. And he's a guy I could see later on, especially if the Lakers make a 2-for-1 kind of trade or something like that, where then he gets promoted from the 2-way spot to be kind of that third center that everybody wants. Because that and point guard, those are the two positions you just don't really want to be caught very shorthanded in the league without 2 or 3 of those guys. Those are the spots everybody's filling out by the time you're getting to finalizing playoff rosters and the like.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully he can get back up to speed quickly because, as you said, the Lakers right now, real thin. Yeah, real thin at those big positions. Now, part of that too is Christian Wood. We're waiting to hear an update on him and where his recovery's at. Jared Vanderbilt as well. So that certainly compounds it. Not that Vanderbilt is a center. Even Christian Wood is kind of a more of a smaller center, but still, those guys being out too have made it tough for the Lakers at the big position. So, Christian Koloko, welcome back, and we'll see what he can do.
And all that said, Anthony Davis is playing out his mind right now. Player of the week last week. And Jackson Hayes has been really solid behind him in his minutes. The big thing with Jackson Hayes is if you keep him to 10 to 15 minutes, he tends to look really good. You have to play him anything more than that. It starts to get a little wonky because that's when he gets tired. He starts committing really stupid fouls, gets himself in trouble. But when it's 10, 15 minutes a night, he's perfectly fine. And, AD, I mean, I'm sure JJ Redick's going to be like, do I really have to take him out? Like, because he's just rolling right now. You don't want him coming off the floor if you can avoid it. But you also know we're 4 or 5 games into an 82-game season. We got to be smart about, especially with AD, with his importance to the team and his history.
The rule we have for Jackson Hayes is you are only allowed to throw him lobs. You try to throw him anything in the paint, he's probably not going to catch it. But you throw him a lob, he can finish those. Yeah,
that reminds me of the old Bill Cartwright when Michael Jordan was complaining about he fumbles every pass, and they're like, throw it as hard as you can at his face, and then he'll catch those. And then when Jordan was like, "Oh, okay, great, I'll just whip it at his face every time." And then Bill Cartwright went on to be pretty good for the Bulls for a number of years as they won titles.
That's the secret, I guess. So what you're saying is the Lakers need to start throwing the ball at Jackson Hayes' face.
I don't know if that's how it works for him. He may just take him off the dome
he
and then be
he
out for
might
a
just
week. I don't know,
hey,
but it worked for Bill Cartwright.
hey
Just
Jackson,
stick with the throwing of lob.
if you could dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And
Yeah,
just
right.
start whipping shots at him. All right, let's go. Former Lakers center Jay Huff got a standard deal, worked his way up from a two-way contract. Really cool to see him succeed.
Awesome.
Similar to Scottie Pippen Jr. in terms of finding a spot.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies was on a tear to start the season, and Jay Huff gets converted to a standard deal in Memphis. Always cool to see guys who battled their way up, from going undrafted to eventually landing a full NBA contract.
This is, for my money, the easy surprise of the season in the first week was Jay Huff. Played in every game, all four of them. So, I mean, not a ton, but all 4 games. 18.8 minutes per game off the Grizzlies bench. 12.3 points per game and 1.8 blocks per game. 63% from the field. But here's the big one. 58.8% from 3 on 4.3 3-pointers per night. Like that, I mean, let's go.
You can't do that
right?
forever.
Like, yeah, that's gonna come down, of course. But this is why, right? The Grizzlies are like, yeah, let's convert him, because now they could have left him on a 2-way for for the whole season. Nobody could. This is different than like a guy sitting in the G League that anybody can sign. He was already signed to a 2-way contract. But if I'm Memphis, let's convert him over, eliminate the games rules, and then now we'll go refill our 2-way spot. They've not done so as of yet. Keep an eye on his name's Mauzinha Pereira, who played for them last year on a 10-day call up, and then he played for their G League team a little, and he also played for the Mexico City G League team. He might be the guy who fills in that open 2-way spot. He was a guy who they really liked last season and liked having in camp. So just keep an eye there. Another really super athletic big, just a little bit smaller than some of these, about 6'8", 6'9", instead of being a 7-footer.
Okay, good to note there. And then Jay Huff, again, congratulations to him. Very cool to see him.
Apparently your path to the league is do a 2-way with the Lakers, go do a 2-way for a little bit with the Grizzlies, then you get signed.
And then you get signed. Yep, that's the way to do it. That's apparently the path. So maybe we'll need to keep an eye on if we start hearing Christian Koloko to the Grizzlies rumors, we know why. We know what's going on there. Just stay away from Quincy Oliveri, Memphis, please. That guy is a delight. All right. Jonathan Kuminga. So Jonathan Kuminga gets moved to the bench, instantly plays better.
Yep.
After making it very clear he wants to start, doesn't come to terms on a new deal with the Warriors over the summer. And now part of this was no Steph Curry. I believe it was last night's game. I don't know. Keith, we're at the point of the season already where time has lost all meaning. It's all just blurring together.
I can tell you who they played, just when they played. That part.
Who knows?
They played.
They played the Pelicans. But Jonathan Kuminga moved to the bench for the time being. Brandon Podziemski into the starting lineup with Steph Curry out. But Kuminga was great off the bench for the Warriors. Did you see the Warriors turned over the Pels 23 times in last night's game? God, unreal.
It has not been the best start to the season for New Orleans. Just super sloppy with the ball. They lost the game to Portland, mostly because they were pretty sloppy with the ball. Clearly, they're dealing with some injuries. Zion played really well as far as finishing, and he had some really nice passes. But man, he had a couple passes and ball handling mistakes that were like, oof, these were rough. So, and then they just didn't get. It was him and Ingram. If they scored, they were okay. But if anybody else shot, it didn't go so hot.
Look at that, Keith. If you told me ahead of time that the Warriors don't have Steph Curry and Zion and Brandon Ingram are going to combine for 61.
Yeah,
I'll go. Okay, so the Pelicans won, right?
Yep.
No, they got blown out, and they lost Herb Jones dealing with a shoulder thing. And we'll wait for word on exactly what that looks like. But this team is running out of players pretty quick here. Trey Murphy's already out. DeJounte Murray. Now you've got Herb Jones. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, but we're waiting on word there.
Scroll down a little too to the Warriors side of this box score, because Curry was out, but no DeAnthony Melton. So they didn't have their two primary ball handlers. Those two guys are out. So Brandon Pajemski had to play point guard last night. Did fine. Like he's,
Yeah.
pretty solid at the position. And then Andrew Wiggins also was unavailable to play too. So 3 new starters. So they had Heald, Moody, and Pajemski in there. Maybe 2. Well, no, that's 3 because Kuminga went to the bench. So
Right.
Kuminga, Wiggins, and Curry, who had been starting on the bench. Sounds like Steph. I don't think we've talked about this yet. Sounds like maybe going to miss the rest of the week and then he'll be back. That's always a little nebulous. They weren't super clear, but I think it was reevaluated Friday for him. But it doesn't sound like it's like super serious with this injury. So should be back soon. Wiggins, I think they're hopeful it was only a 1-game thing. I think he was sick, I think was what went on with him. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, it's, I mean, this is the cycle with Buddy Hield, right? It's there's that thing that goes around Twitter, the Buddy Hield cycle, where it is like team acquires him. Oh my God, how did this team ever let him go?
Right.
Then it goes into, wait, what's happening with this guy? Then it's, let's get this guy out of town. And then you start it over again. Like it's like, that's kind of, what it's been with Buddy Hield. But right now, I mean, he was on fire last night. I was personally happy to see Moses Moody get run and play so well. And then Lindy Waters came off.
Where did that come from?
Yeah. That's Steve Kerr's like, well, I got to play my 12 guys. I said I was going to, so I got a couple guys out. Let me just go to these other guys. But he played really well too.
Yeah. So impressive stuff from the Warriors too. Again, I mean, a whole new starting lineup. Only 2 guys from your prior starting lineup stick, and then you go and you beat the Pelicans handily on a night that saw Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson combined for 61. That's sometimes we see this where a star gets hurt. And in this case, you've got, a star and a half, I guess. I saw a very solid starter in Andrew Wiggins. So you see a team for a game or two really pick it up after that because everybody's like, uh-oh, Steph's not here. I've got to really be on my A game. And so you can get this kind of short spurt where teams can sustain themselves. It's usually the long run where you see the impact of not having that star. But credit to the Warriors. They play great. Got a win over the Pelicans. And again, Jonathan Kuminga, 17 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. That's his best game of the season. He's not had a great season so far. I think that's his best game of the season for the Warriors.
Yeah, I agreed. Helps when you have a couple bigs that can pass, like Green and Jackson Davis. Like they're just 2 guys you can put the ball in their hands, let them do some stuff. Draymond played an extremely composed game. Zion's not he's not the easiest cover for anybody, but for Draymond Green, he's like Zion just plays extremely physical. And those are some of the times when Draymond gets himself in trouble, right? He'll pick up fouls. He'll start, hitting back a little too hard and it gets a little out of control. But I thought he was really composed. No turnovers for him. That's one of the other worries when Steph is out, that he's like, Draymond's never going to be like, all right, I'm taking 20 shots. I'm going to make it happen that way. Be like, let me try to all these crazy passes and they don't work half the time. This time just played within himself and played well.
Very good. Very cool. Cool stuff here for the Golden State Warriors. All right. Let's jump over. Let's go. Devin Vassell is going to be coming back early November. I think he's one of he's my guy that I think needs to pop up on the radar and will once the Spurs start winning more games. Maybe it's not this season, but talented player, was dealing with, I believe it was a foot surgery, wasn't it? Last season, foot surgery. And now he's just recovering and should get back here for an early November return. I'm not expecting the Spurs to be like a playoff team this year, but I think they are going to be a more difficult out on any given night. And Devin Vassell can be a big, big part to making them much more formidable this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this one, I think what the important thing with this one is when they said early November, this isn't like one of those early November and it's like November 13th or something.
Yeah.
This is like maybe not tonight, but maybe the next game or two after that. Like he'll be back in there for the Spurs. So like right as we're turning the calendar, sounds like he's getting really close. And I'm with you. I think with Devin Vassell, it would be amazing if he could be the number 2 to Wemby.
Yeah,
it's still a pretty good outcome if he's like your surefire, clear number 3 guy, and they find somebody else, develop somebody else into that number 2 there and go. I did I committed podultery and did another pod earlier this morning, but I I know. How dare I? But I said,
We're gonna have to rebuild trust.
I know, right? We'll work on it. We'll do some trust falls and stuff. But one of the things I said about the Spurs was they're a team that's looming to me where next time around that they have cap space, which probably be in a year or two, and if they're really ready to win, they haven't been like a huge free agent market, but they've always kind of gotten the guys they've targeted when they wanted to go get somebody. Like the most famous one of those is LaMarcus Aldridge. Like he very famously turned down many other bigger name teams to go to San Antonio. And this was now with the recruiting tool of want to come play with Wemby? Because like who's not going to want to do that unless you're a center, and then you might be like, well, that's not cool because I'm gonna play 5 minutes a game. Like why, but if you're a really good wing or ball handler or whatever. So I think they're really starting to build something. I just think it's a year away, and that's okay. People got super fired up about the Spurs, and a handful of people are like, why'd you guys have them so low? I think they're going to be playing tournament team. And maybe they will be. I think we got one more year to go before we're at that level.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could, if they could make some, I don't want to say all in, but some win now moves at the trade deadline this year. But I think most likely it's going to be next summer that we see those like, okay, let's push down on the gas pedal. Let's really try to go here. I think that's when we're going to see that happen. All right. Let's finish things off with some declined rookie scale options. Usually not a good sign when your rookie scale option gets declined. Some still out there, and we'll see what happens. But who's been declined so far?
Yeah, so one we are all working under the assumption because this is much like an option at any other time in the year. You don't really decline it. You just don't pick it up, and then the deadline passes and it goes by. But occasionally you'll get reporting and the team will say, we're not going to pick up the option for player X. Wendell Moore Jr. on the Detroit Pistons. That was very much I was going to say salary dump, true salary dump, but more of a major tax clearance move for the Timberwolves to the Pistons this offseason. How probably not getting his option picked up. They picked up all their other ones, and teams usually do them all together. They'll do it in a batch. It'll be like, we did these 2, 3, 4, however many they had. And if somebody's left out of that, probably not getting picked up. That's not going to happen.
And the deadline is tomorrow, yes?
The deadline is tomorrow. Yep, Halloween, October 31st. So we've got day roughly still to do these by the time most people listen to this. So then the Washington Wizards, they picked up Bilal Coulibaly's option, and Josh Robbins, who covers the Wizards, does a great job for The Athletic, had reporting that they are not picking up the options for Patrick Baldwin Jr. or Johnny Davis. So Davis was a failed first-round lottery pick by the former Wizards regime. Baldwin was like a throw-in when they did the Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, Jordan Poole kind of sequence of swaps there. He was tossed into the trade, the Paul Poole swap to make it work. And they're not doing either one. This one's a little, we kind of saw the writing on the wall because they shopped those guys heavily before the roster cut down deadline because they wanted to keep Jared Butler. This also, now that they've declined the option, keep an eye on, probably not anytime soon, but if they don't need their salaries to be put into a trade later on in the season, like by the trade deadline or something, you may just see them waive one of these guys, let them go catch on somewhere else for the rest of the year. Then maybe you convert like Jared Butler from his 2-way deal or you filled it in another way or something. Because you decline the rookie scale option. It's pretty clear you're moving on. Personally, I don't like declining rookie scale options unless there's one or two things at play. One, the guy has had so many injuries. Like this was always, you remember Jordan Adams played for the Grizzlies at UC, he was a UCLA kid. He had so many injuries that it was like, he's just never going to play in the league again.
Right.
That one I understood. Like, all right, you move on from the guy then, or you are absolutely certain this guy can't play.
He's not close to an NBA player. No, like we see teams hurt themselves with, like, what was it? Was it Jalen Smith with the Suns?
Smith, with the Suns. Yeah. Yep. And then the Suns ended up re-signing him. And here's part of why you don't want to decline the option. If you decline, like, let's say Johnny Davis breaks out in the next like 2 months and is like, oh man, we blew this. He's playing great. And the Wizards like want to keep him. you can't sign him for any more money than the declined option amount and first year salary. It's how they close the loophole. So you're not like, oh man, Wemby's awesome. Let's decline his option and start him on his max deal now.
Right.
You can't do that. You have to play it out. So that's you lose a lot of leverage, and they become an unrestricted free agent too, where like you're limited in what you can pay. It's almost like the opposite of restricted free agency, where it's like team has all control. It's like crap. Now we have like no leverage because we're capped at what we can pay them. So I just keep an eye on it. I generally don't like declining them, but these two I kind of understand it. They're Baldwin was a throw in a trade. Davis product of the former front office. Yeah, if they're not going to be a part of things, move on. Let them get a fresh start somewhere else, and move on yourself with a little bit more cap flexibility.
Keith, what are the Lakers going to do with Jalen Hood-Schifino? They've already, I would assume they pick it up, but they've already sent him down to. Well, they've already sent him down to the G League. He's already been sent down this year. They don't have him with the team. He's not been very good or very effective. I still think. I mean, it's $4 million, I think, for next season. So I still think you pick it up.
Yep.
But at least it's a bit more of a question because he's not performed very well when he's been out there on the court.
To me, what makes it a question is the Lakers, everything points to them working around some pretty tight margins with the aprons over the next couple of years. So yeah, if you could save yourself $4 million of the apron wiggle room for next season, that part I could understand. I understand it with the Wizards doing what they did because they're probably going to be a cap space team next summer. So sure, why not take the additional like $7 million or so in cap space that declining these two did. To go back to Hood-Schifino, this is the tricky part, right? With these, you have to do them essentially a year in advance. So we haven't seen anything yet from year two, Jalen Hood-Schifino. And I get it. I know I see all the tweets all the time, and I see the comments on your shows about how, this guy sucks and get rid of him and all this stuff. We don't really know. It's like the beginning of year two. And sometimes guys take a while. This is like a broken record. Like if everybody ever makes t-shirts of things we say too much, this is going to be one of them. Is young guards sometimes take a while.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just going to take him a little while. Like still has great size for the position. It's just his feel for the game's a little off and his shot's a little messy. So like that's the parts who knows. But I just be very careful. Now, if we're still having this conversation a year from now, he'd probably decline it and move on and go.
Right.
I'd pick up that third year option though.
He lost the offseason essentially due to a back injury where he was recovering from surgery. And so there wasn't, I don't know how much time to develop he got. We still, I think, obviously for fans, it's a, what have you done for me lately? And right now too, it's the three guys behind him in the draft have all done good things. So there's that frustration that's, heaped upon the situation as well. But at least it's an interesting one that as we're recording this, and it, like we said, the decision should be made in the next 24 hours here or so. As of right now, they haven't picked up that option yet. So we'll see ultimately what they do there.
He also lost a ton of development time in the G League because he had, I think it was an ankle injury last year or knee or something. Remember, he was out and missed a bunch of G League time.
Yep, he did.
What is encouraging is in the 15 G League games he played last year, he was
good.
Awesome. Really, really good. Shot it really well, played really well. So that part is where, all right, there's not, this is horrible English. My English teachers would fail me. And me fail English? That's impossible. There's not nothing there, right? Like there's something there because you don't play that well in the G League if you can't play at all. So I'd pick, being it's a 30-year option, it's only $4 million. And if nothing else, it gives you $4 million to use in trade this summer if you need to. If or I kind of doubt it's going to really matter to the Lakers because I don't think he's going to be on the team later this year if they make a trade. Because that's he's kind of the prime. If you're making a trade with one of the rebuilding teams, he's the kind of guy a rebuilding team should be like, sure, why not? Like, we'll take a shot. Like,
I'll take a chance on.
Let's see what it looks like. So. Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for today. Again, we've got Spooky Day tomorrow, but a lot of games going on around the NBA tonight because, as you said, Keith, we don't have much on the slate for tomorrow because everybody's going to be out trick-or-treating and all that, and it's Thursday night. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Again, make sure you do subscribe. Check out the Substack Basketball Bulletin over in the – I'll put the link in the description down below, and I'll throw in the YouTube channel as well so you guys can check that out also. Thanks again. Till next time, everybody. See ya. And stay safe.